You know, the power of friendship really is something special. Whoa, hold on, listen. I know how that sounds. This is going somewhere, trust me. Man, retention is hard these days. Anyways, bro characters. The main protagonist, ride or die player 2, who can always be counted on to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. It's a necessary archetype for sure, but I think it grows stale pretty quick. So many of these guys just blend together into this nameless, faceless mush to the point where I can't even remember their names. Sure, there have been a lot of standouts over the years, but if you want to make it as a bro character, you better be unique in some way. Enter Youhei Sunohara, a character who stands out due to his intriguing dynamic with Clannad's protagonist, the depth he possesses thanks to some exceptional characterization, and most importantly, the fact that he's also responsible for almost making me cry by conveying one of the most done-to-death messages in the history of fiction in such a powerful way. How did he do it? We'll find out soon enough. For now, all I'll say is that he had a little help from his sister. Welcome back to Clannad is Perfect for Me, and I gotta apologize right off the bat because I misspoke a few seconds ago. I only mentioned Mei when I talked about the characters who give Sunohara's story a boost, but I meant to say Mei, Sanai, Nagisa, Tomoya, Fuko, Masai, and Yusuke. Why are so many characters involved in a route that's less than 3 hours long? Good question. See, while following the walkthrough, my intuition, I ended up doing way more prep work than I initially anticipated. Granted, a good chunk of this stuff is justified in my opinion, because they go the One Piece route of laying the groundwork for future major players dozens of hours before they become relevant. We get a lot of information on Yusuke's background naturally integrated into our conversations with both him and his biggest fan. Sanai gets a lot of great characterization here. We see so many sides of her that crush the misconception that she's just another one-dimensional mom character. She's kind, oblivious, mischievous, attentive, heartwarming, prideful, and wise all in the same route. And then you have characters like Fuko, who you would only talk to if you want to see the scene where Tomoya and Sunohara kidnap her in order to force her to pretend to be Sunohara's girlfriend. And also if you want to see them do it again. Come on, just give her a break. I already discussed Clannad's humor in the other videos, but this route utilizes a unique technique, say that 5 times fast, to make its humor hit harder. I don't know if there's an official term for it, but I'm going to call it joke heightening. Essentially, it's when you repeat a joke you've already made, but enhance it with new information that's come to light since you told it the first time. It's a little like how I keep bringing up my Patreon in every single video. The only difference being that Clannad isn't annoying. For example, when the boys finally land on Sanai as the person who will pretend to be Sunohara's girlfriend, Tomoya has this daydream where he imagines what it would be like if the two of them went out for real. It's so cheesy that even Kojima couldn't handle it, but that's what makes it an amusing read. I heard you got yelled at by the teacher again. It's because I just can't do anything right no matter what I do. That's not true at all. You can do a lot if you set your mind to it. Later, when Sanai and Sunohara are getting ready for a practice date, Tomoya tries to convince her to call it off because, well, it's Sunohara we're talking about here. He rattles off some fun facts about him, some true, some false. Like he's an idiot, he's a pervert, he likes running around in the street naked, yada yada, but regardless, Sanai says that she wants to go through with it anyways. She tells Tomoya it's fine if he is all those things. And as for his hobbies, to each their own. Tomoya then slips back into his daydream and revises its contents to this. I heard you went running around naked again. It's because I'm a pervert who will do just about anything. That's not true at all. To each his own, remember? There's the scene where Mei tells Tomoya that he's just like her brother. Upon hearing that vile insult to his character, he thinks about it for a second before saying something that I'm gonna err on the side of caution and say I can't repeat on YouTube. He opens a window and Mei pulls him back into the room, saying they're on the first floor, so all he'd do is get his clothes dirty. With this knowledge in mind, a few minutes later, Mei tells him that Sunohara seems like his best friend. Tomoya then walks over to a dictionary, flips it to the phrase best friend, and after reading the definition, he Come on, guys. I think you get the picture. A mediocre joke plants the seeds for a hilarious one, and the payoff is always worth it. Something that I don't think pays off all the time for Clannad, however, is the way Sunohara is treated. I think we all know that the guy is a douchebag. Pull up a list of everything that could be wrong with a high school boy, and he probably fits the bill for most of them. But let me stick up for the guy and say that the excessive punishment he receives in this game by every single character isn't funny or charming, it's just kind of irritating. He gets his ass kicked by the rugby club, gangsters, Akio, Masai, Tomoyo, Kyo, Fuko, basically anyone within swinging distance at any given time. Sure, sometimes he deserves it, but half the time it seems like the writers needed to get him out of a scene and couldn't think of a good way to do it. You might say, bro, why should you care? It's just Sunohara, but come on, I still like the guy, he's funny as hell. And beyond just physical torment, the way Tomoya treats him would be enough to make anyone snap. He's always putting the guy down at any chance he gets. And I admit, friends throw playful insults at each other all the time, but there's a limit to that, and Tomoya never lets up. It seems impossible for him to say even one nice thing about his supposed best friend. I will say though, this behavior makes sense for Tomoya. He's never been one to hold himself in high regard, and he takes this out on Sunohara because of how much he reminds him of himself in both circumstance and general outlook. It is some pretty cool writing, but that doesn't mean I always have to enjoy reading it. Like really, one of your only friends is telling you they want to impress their sister but knows they'll have to lie to do it because they live a poor lifestyle, and your response is let's get you a fake girlfriend, this'll stave off my boredom for a while. Honestly. Alright, that's the plot of this route by the way, and since I already gave it away, you also know that Sanai is the unlucky lady. Mei shows up as Sunohara is off on a practice date with Sanai, and she's the same as she was in the baseball route. Kind, shrewd, capable, and super suspicious of the fact that her brother managed to get a girlfriend. Tomoya actually does his due diligence and goes along with Sunohara's lie, so she demands to tag along during a date to make sure this is actually a thing. And said date somehow goes worse than any of us could have expected. Sunohara has a meltdown when Sanai tells him she ate lunch before coming. He takes her to this special restaurant he planned to go to anyways, which was actually just his dorm room, and I especially like this part where Mei asks if Tomoya would take a girl to an arcade, and he's all like, no way, only human scum would do that. And then Sunohara's all like, yo, let's go to the arcade. Alright, I'll admit, Sunohara abuse can be pretty funny sometimes. He gets pissed off at one of the rhythm games and attacks the machine. Then he drags Sanai to a CD store to give her his favorite song, Bomb Ahead. He mentions this song several times throughout the visual novel, and he's the only one who seems to like it. While to my knowledge, there was never a Bomb Ahead song composed for Clannad, there is this obscure 2004 anime named Tenjo Tenge that brought this dream to reality with its opening, and it's, you know... the perfect gift for a woman in her early 40s, don't you think? To end off the date, we see Sunohara notice a couple of kids bullying a little lost girl, and he decides to completely ignore them. Obviously, the other three don't let this stand, and they disperse the bullies as well as spend an hour or two trying to find the little girl's home. Sunohara pouts the entire time this happens like a child, which works wonders for pissing off the player and setting up the main conflict of this route. See, Sunohara being Sunohara is treating Sanai as if she's his real girlfriend, and even though Tomoya convinced her she was just Nagasa's sister rather than her mother, it's still beyond delusional. As he obsesses over her during every waking moment, he takes a passive-aggressive stance towards his sister. He says she only came here because she loves the city and wanted to get out of the countryside for a bit, not because she wanted to check up on him. So what's with him? Is he still trying to prove how cool he is to Mei? Is he pushing her away because he thinks he doesn't need her anymore? Mei even tells Sunohara that she's dating some dude in his late 20s. Then she says she's stepping out to go meet him. And even though Sunohara is clearly upset by this messed up situation, he doesn't run after her because he might miss a call from Sanai? Jesus Christ! Tomoya ends up running out to stop Mei. And once he realizes she lied to get her brother to show that he cares about her, he decides to take her into town to cheer her up. I neglected to mention this, but in between all the Sunohara being a poohead scenes, scenes, we see Tomoya and Mei fostering a genuine friendship. She ends up staying at Tomoya's place so she doesn't have to sleep on the floor in her brother's dorm, and this opens the door to this really cool bit of storytelling. Clannad loves its character parallels, especially when it comes to Tomoya, and as you know, Sunohara arguably has the most in common with him. They were both robbed of their chances to succeed in sports. They both turned to delinquency because of this, and they always tend to agree on serious matters. One thing I was interested in going into this route was how Mei and Sunohara typically act while living together, and we never get to see that dynamic, but we do see it with Tomoya. As Mei lives with him, she wakes him up every day, vacuums his room, plays pranks on him, hell, even feeds him. We get to see how Mei usually treats her big brother through the eyes of Tomoya, which I think is super cool. So cool, in fact, that when they did this again in After Story, it shot the route in question up next to my all-time favorites. But anyways, back to Mei. She's getting so into the parallels here that she's even calling Tomoya Oni-chan now, and he likes it? This is bad. Very bad. This route is going in a direction that I swore I would never follow. I mean, really, the only people who are into this kind of thing are only children who don't know what it's like to have a dipshit sibling by their side. However, Clannad has never steered me wrong before, and I need to understand everything about it properly if I'm going to make the definitive series of videos about it. Alright, Clannad. I'll sniff the sweaty socks of degeneracy just for you. For the sake of clarity and content, I'll become the loser you need me to be. Bottoms up. Oh, hold on, stop. That's the police again, isn't it? Alright, I told them it was just a prank and they let me off the hook. And good thing too, because this Oni-chan bit lasts all of about 3 minutes before it's kicked. But traces of it find their way into this Hail Mary white lie that Tomoya tells Sunohara when he catches Mei kissing him on the cheek after their day out. He says that he was the boyfriend all along, hoping that Sunohara would finally prove himself and jump in to defend his sister from him, but once again, he does nothing. He curses and yells, but he doesn't do anything to separate the two. Well, that was a bust, and now it's going to be pretty awkward around him, so Tomoya steers clear of him the next day. And in a scene that I really wish the anime would have included, he actually gets invited to eat lunch with some old friends of his. While talking with them though, he finds it hard to connect or relax. These aren't the kind of friends he wants anymore, and he finds himself thinking about Sunohara as he leaves the cafeteria. He wants to come up with a way to help him, not out of pity, not out of boredom, but a genuine attempt to get his friend out of this stupid streak he's got going. Using his own life as a guideline, he traces all of Sunohara's problems back to the moment he was kicked out of the soccer club, and thinks that maybe he could turn his life back around if he was playing soccer again. He finds Mei after school, and it turns out she thought of the exact same thing. Here's the part of this route that everyone remembers. Tomoya and Mei head to the soccer club to beg them to let Sunohara back in. Obviously, they're all hesitant, because it was Sunohara's fault that the team got disqualified from competing that year. But beyond that, every single one of these losers and their dickhead managers seem like the type who would take their date to an arcade. It's nothing but bullying, harassment, and humiliation for these two over the next few days. And while the club seems unrealistically malicious at points, you can't deny that they do an exceptional job of making the player hate them. They string Mei and Tomoya along by telling them if they keep shagging, cleaning, and obeying their unreasonable requests, they might let Sunohara back on the team. After they've had their fun though, one evening they mention that they're never going to let him back in. After seeing how much this upset Mei, another one of them pushes further by saying that Sunohara knows all about the trouble these two are going through for him. See, Tomoya got into a shouty match with Sunohara the other day when his bravado ticked him off, telling him to go find out for himself how much Mei is struggling for his sake right now. Turns out he went and asked one of the soccer club guys about it, and yet after hearing the full story, he's nowhere to be found. Once again, he failed to protect his little sister, and as Mei starts to cry, the soccer club seizes the opportunity to pick on her further. Any desire Tomoya had to endure this whole thing for Sunohara's sake melts away, and he steps forward to deliver some much-deserved frontier justice. Just as he begins to move though, Sunohara rushes past him and delivers a beautiful kick to one of the players. He screams that nobody is allowed to pick on Mei and starts going wild as the other members try desperately to subdue him. Tomoya turns to Mei and tells her not to worry, because her brother isn't going to lose. He then rushes in and joins in on the action. Unfortunately, we don't get to see this epic 2v, 7 brawl of the century, but we do know the aftermath. Tomoya and Sunohara are lying down on the ground looking up at the sky. Tomoya recalls the soccer club running away with their tail between their legs, calling the pair crazy all the while. Well, since they're here, Tomoya takes the opportunity to call Sunohara an idiot and tells him he needs to apologize to Mei. He responds by asking if he's picking a fight with him, and Tomoya says yeah, I guess. We then see the two of them drag their beaten bodies back up and prepare to start throwing punches yet again. Tomoya makes the first move by tackling Sunohara and unloading on his head, all the while demanding an excuse for his behavior if he's not gonna apologize. Sunohara then catches his fist and reveals that he thought it was okay because Tomoya was there. As he counterattacks, everything begins to fall in place. He didn't chase after Mei back at the dorm because he knew Tomoya would go after her. He didn't attack Tomoya when he told the lie about dating Mei because he trusted him enough to let it happen. And he laid low while the soccer club bullied her because he believed that Tomoya would protect her. The dramatic irony resonates beautifully here as the two of them continue to trade blows. Their wounds reopen, their blood stains the athletic grounds a dark color. And I was left in utter disbelief my first time reading. I couldn't believe that Sunohara had that much trust and respect for somebody else, no matter how much sense it made, because it just never crossed my mind that this would be the driving force behind his actions. I thought about the scenes Tomoya had where he became more appreciative of the carefree days he spent with Sunohara, and all of this evolved into a burning desire to see these two stop fighting and go back to being best friends. Thankfully, Mei intervenes, and Tomoya leaves the two of them holding each other so he can clean up and go to bed. Well, that's one relationship reconciled, but something tells me the next one won't be so easy. The next day, Tomoya waltzes into the classroom around noon and plops down in his chair. Not long after, a weird-looking blonde kid with bandages all over his face enters the room. He hesitates for a bit, but then makes his way over to Tomoya's chair. The two stare each other down for a few seconds before Tomoya's guttural laughter breaks the silence. Sunohara begins to laugh too, and after a while, Tomoya asks him if he wants to go get lunch. Sunohara says he's broke, then suggests some instant ramen, and they're instantly back to the way they used to be. It's a scene very reminiscent of how the two of them met. Both had just gotten into separate fights, and by seemingly random chance, the two of them crossed paths. Tomoya couldn't help but laugh at how messed up this guy's face looked, and Sunohara returned the favor. From the very beginning, it was a relationship that provided essential comfort for both of them. Their lives were going nowhere and they probably would have dropped out, but in this moment they both thought, if I can spend my high school days doing dumb stuff with this guy, it might not be so bad. Sure, there's Tomoya's spiteful behavior, but high schoolers are just stupid, man. And it felt so good to see Tomoya find some clarity when he reflects on his relationship with Sunohara at the end of the route. There's nothing to be worried or uneasy about, let alone to be truly troubled about. The resentment that had been lurking in my heart all this time, I could feel it melting away as if it had all been a lie. As Mei is about to head back home, Sunohara gives this great speech about how high school is where you find your greatest friends. The people you'll always come back to through getting a job, getting married, starting a family, anything. They'll always be there for you to meet up with and laugh together. And while there may not be some big dramatic moment that makes you realize how much you appreciate them, pretty soon you'll find each other inseparable thanks to all the small joys piling up. It's a touching thing to see for sure, and I think it's elevated even further by how unique the feelings it evokes are. Clannad gets a lot of tears out of people by expressing just how important human connection is, but most of that theme focuses on romance or family. This is one of the only routes that zeroes in on friendship, and I think that alone makes it more than worth including in the game. We get a new light orb, unlike Fuko's route, sorry about that, that was a mistake. We're brought back to the title screen, and then we hop right back into the game because we're doing two routes in this video. See, the route we just did technically belongs to Mei, which begs the question, what about our boy? Well, while making Clannad, the writers thought about what would happen if Tomoya went through the game rejecting as many girls as possible. I'm talking Nagisa, Tomoya, Masato, Tai, Kyo, Yukine, and Kotomi. Turns out that Sunohara becomes your last line of defense to finish the game without a bad ending. He mentions that he wants to try to become a model, and asks if you think he's handsome. If you say yes, Tomoya will turn from resenting Sunohara to confessing to him. So if you ever wanted to go gay for Sunohara, and I know you do, then this is the route for you. It also gives you an achievement too, which is pretty cool. That's about all there is to say about it though. Special thanks to Silent Secondary, and I'm gonna give a little context before I read this next name. If you've checked out the Patreon before, you might have noticed that the final reward tier promises that I'd scream your name at the end of each video that month. I never thought anyone would ever pledge to it, but here we are, and I plan on fulfilling this request to the best of my ability. So, volume warning, let's take it from the top. Special thanks to Silent Secondary,
Mr. Chocolate Salmon!
and the rest of my wonderful patrons.